welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom, and we are going to be doing a kind of tag video. Now, I've seen the channel Horror Hands who did this, although he didn't originate the tag, and I can't remember who he said did originate the tag, but I'll try and put their original link in the description box below. But it's essentially a top 10 guilty pleasure movie review, movie list. So top 10 movies that are maybe not the greatest, either critically or commercially, but that you enjoy for whatever reason. So I'm only going to go through mine. I've tried to keep it to ones that I own and have available. A lot of the movies that I really enjoyed were older films that you can't get on Blu-Ray and stuff, so I haven't got them anymore because I've got rid of my VHS collection and stuff, and my DVDs are all packed away. But 10 here that I think are kind of worthy, not necessarily in any order. So let's get cracking. Number one is Humanoids from the Deep. This is a water-based monster movie. This is the Shout Factory steelbook. This one's a Doug McClure movie, and it was remade as well. The remake is toned down. This actually has quite a lot of implied sort of sexual violence, because these creatures want to mate with human women. They come up from the depths and want to mate, so it's obviously a little bit disturbing when you think about it, and the remake kind of really downplayed that a little bit, to be honest with you. But this I mean, I love creature features, and I especially love aquatic creature features very much, like Horror Hands here, and this is one of my kind of go-to favourites. Probably I would say the biggest movie on this list is Aliens vs Predator, the first one. I kind of like this movie. I know that it gets kind of beasted, but I actually didn't think it was a bad movie, and I actually quite liked the interplay between the Predator and the kind of like the human that they sort of befriend, and the alien fights are quite good. So yeah, I actually quite like Aliens vs Predator. Number one is the next one is Battle Beyond the Stars. This is a Spanish release. It's the only Region B one that is currently available, and this is a great space opera in the vein of The Magnificent Seven, Seven Samurai, and was made by Roger Corman in response to Star Wars. It's, you know, it's kind of cheesy, but I love it. Great soundtrack by James Horner as well. Next one is Beastmaster. Again, this was a kind of response to Conan the Barbarian. Mark Singer, I think it's fantastic as Dar the Beastmaster. This to me is one of the best sword and sorcery movies out there. But it kind of gets overlooked, I think, because of the kind of the slightly more serious and higher budgeted Conan the Barbarian. Star Crash, this is a German release. This one actually got signed by Carolyn Monroe when I met her at a convention, and she stars in this one. And this is an Italian rip-off of Star Wars that is really crappy. And I admit this movie is really crappy, and I maybe don't watch it so much these days, but once upon a time I loved this movie, and I really liked the robot here called L. He was great. I thought he was a great character. And yeah, Star Crash. Hawk the Slayer, again, a big fan of the fantasy movies, and this one is a British one that is pretty crappily made, to be honest with you. But it's got a kick-ass soundtrack, and it has got a really cool character called Crow, who is an elf that like just shoots off arrows like a machine gun. It's brilliant. I mean, it's the way it's filmed is you know, a little cheap, but it looks great, I think. And I actually quite like this movie, to be honest with you. But it does. This one doesn't hold up very well, admittedly. Okay, this one maybe people may not even know exists. This is Dungeons and Dragons 3. The original Dungeons and Dragons was like a cinema release. They had two sequels that were straight to video. And this one, the third one, I actually think is quite a fun movie, because it actually focuses on bad guys. You have a group of like villains, ultimately, who are going on a quest. They're you know, not good people. Even the best of them is this kind of our protagonist is still a little bit on the kind of the shady side. But yeah, I actually thought this was, and it actually, I've never played Dungeons and Dragons, but I watched this recently with someone who played Dungeons and Dragons. They said it's not a bad representation of the actual game. Next one is one called Rage War here in the UK, also known as The Dungeon Master. This is a Spanish release. And this is, I guess you want to say it's kind of an anthology movie to a degree, but it has the same character through all of them. And it's basically this guy who has to go through a series of challenges set by this kind of like demonic entity to try and rescue, his girlfriend. And each challenge is kind of there's like a zombie one, there's a slasher one, there's kind of like a big monster one. There's various different things that you have to do, and it's kind of cheesy, but I think it's quite fun. It has this weird sort of like I don't know, a really weird feel to it. I've also got Wasp in there. Blackie Lawless from Wasp plays one of the bad guys. The Demolitionist. This is a kind of a straight-to-video female version of RoboCop, but it plays a little bit more like a superhero. And I'm a big fan of I used to be a big fan of Marvel Comics and stuff, so I quite like this. And I thought the costume was pretty good. It's super cheesy. Richard Grieco is the bad guy, and this is a German version. Next one is Pay the Ghost, and this is one of Nicolas Cage's many straight DVD video movies that he's done. But I actually legitimately like this one. I actually think this is a fairly well-made film. And if you like the kind of like the modern horrors like The Conjuring and that sort of thing, Insidious, I actually think it sits quite nicely on side with these sort of films. I mean, the ending's a little bit CGI. But, Nicolas Cage gets a bad rap these days. But I actually kind of like this one. And the last one on my list is an Asylum movie. Yes. A movie made by the Asylum I enjoy unironically. And this one is Ghost Hunters. This is a German Blu-ray, but you can get this on British DVD. And this is kind of the best way to describe it is if Ghostbusters were taken seriously-ish. This is like a group of ghost hunters go into this, haunted house as you'd expect, but there's also a serial killer involved. And it's pretty gruesome, pretty gory. The director has actually done quite a few similar films that are actually pretty good. Anyway, that concludes my my list. Now, I'm going to tag a couple of people, but I am going to leave this as an open tag as well. So if anyone wants to do it, so I'm going to tag APB Reviews, Adam Paul Beaumont. You are tagged if you do watch this. I'm going to tag Screenstars because I know that he likes the top 10, and that's one of his favourite things to do. So Aaran from Screenstars, you are tagged. Although I think you may have done one of these sort of tags relatively recently. I'm just looking through my subscribers. Just give me a sec. Let's have a look. Grumpy Andrew, House of Horror. That'll be quite interesting to see what from you. And Horror in Toj, we'll leave it at that. There you go. So anyone else who wants to do it, please feel free. And thanks for watching. Bye for now.